Right, all you music makers, video game players, and entertainers from all around the world, welcome to the 624th edition of MusicVillage. I am your host from the East Coast, DJ Smokey, bringing you the best for the North, Southeast, and West that the world of music and games has to offer, and seeing the fact that we are heading into the next to final week prior to a school year starting a little bit earlier than most expected, we might as well waste some time and explain to you guys what's going to happen on this very special weekend before the final weekend before school returns edition of MusicVillage. And now I just realized we might need a simpler title than that, and we got plenty of time to work on it, because we kick things off with me answering your questions at home for another edition of the MusicVillage mailbag. And according to Colin Maestro, it might take a minute because the wizard hat is in the cleaners right now. Oh, that's perfect. Also, besides that, we go into a very special Dark Album edition of the MusicVillage CD review. And according to Colin Maestro, we got some goodies with the CD as well, too. Yay! And speaking of good things that we were able to get from this show, we go ahead and check out some games from a planet far away from here and from the Steam Machine alike for another edition of a Friday Night Greenlight. And speaking of the color green, or according to Colin Maestro, red, and with a little bit of flames behind it, we go into a very special Flame Dominance edition of the DJ Smokey's True Video Game Stories. And according to Colin Maestro, there might be some form of royalty involved with it as well, too. Yeah, that and a blackout. Then we go ahead and find out what you independent artists got planned for this weekend for another edition of the Indie for the weekend, which is me giving you guys news stories or concert information, news from that said concert information from local artists performing in a local area live near you. And Colin Maestro said wonderful recovery, but I wouldn't be too sure about that. Because finally, last but not least, and hopefully before the evening traffic recovers from the bumper to bumper they're currently in right now, we wrap up this show yet another edition of the Up to Speed News, which is me giving you guys news stories from this week from, you guessed it, all around the world. And I guess with that said, I might as well tell Colin Maestro to kick up the beats, crank out the tunes, and most importantly, stop looking out that window. That car is not gonna make that right-hand turn before that light turns red. Cause it's time for us to bring some fun and delight on your Friday afternoon/night, only here, right here on MusicVillage. So let's get this show started, folks. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to MusicVillage. And according to Colin Maestro, after the power outage we had last night, and maybe I should have led with that. Last night, for those who didn't know, our power went out, and not only did it go out here, it went out throughout the entire town, making it look absolute pitch black, which was insane, 1. 2, while the power was out last night, we spent a whole bunch of time just sifting or making our way through old CDs that we had by flashlight getting everything organized for today's show, because we didn't know if we were going to have a show today or not due to the fact of the power being out, but it would come back on with the blue lights all over the place within 2 hours. So yeah, that was my morning in a nutshell. So the race back home was also very interesting, and a chance to be on this microphone for each and every single one of you out there today is absolutely awesome. So I'm just glad the power is back on, long story short, according to Colin the Maestro. But with that power back on, it's time for us to go into another edition of the MusicVillage mailbag. And Colin the Maestro over in the corner with the giant bag over on the left-hand side that is floating in the air and has stars on it. All right? I guess we're doing this, huh? And he said yes. All right, and we just got the hat back from the cleaners. Putting it on our head. It's kind of toasty. Very comfy. And I like it. I really do. So with that out of the way, let's get to those questions. And the first question that we have up says, Dear DJ Smokey, what was your favorite RPG game and why? Well, that is a very, very difficult list because we played a lot of RPG games growing up, and I would have to say first on the list, no, we'll just have a top 5. If we have more than that, I apologize. So, first up, I would have to say, growing up, Phantasy Star Online Episode 1 and 2. Not only because of all the cool weapons and the different planets you got a chance to go to, but also because of the cool music that would have cost me well over $100 to get on a soundtrack disc to play on the air for you guys one day. That's one. 2, I would have to say Champions of Norath. And the reason for that is because that's the only game I've ever heard of that allowed you to have a vampire class, a lizard class, a class where you get a chance to be a leopard or a cheetah. It depends on what color skin you go with, but a chance to be those classes plus mage classes and other classes that you get a chance to be in this giant world from the World of Warcraft world. It was like a side world from that, but just as good. Another game that I liked growing up as a kid would have to be Dragon's Dogma under the RPG game list, and that's because it was this giant oversized world that allowed you to fight some mythical beasts that I've only heard of in the Hercules series. You know, the one with Kevin Sorbo. That would be the reason why in the world I like that game, because all of the people you get a chance to fight against, the mythical creatures from sirens, sulfur, saurians, and even chimeras and griffins. A+ in my book on that. Only problem I had with that game on a side note is they never made it a multiplayer experience, but from what I heard from Carl and the Maestro, they said they were gonna have this giant oversized mod that allows you to have multiplayer in it, similar to Just Cause. And yes, that does exist, ladies and gentlemen, and it's just as chaotic as it sounds. Another game that was one of my favorites in the RPG era would have to be Final Fantasy 15. Now, a lot of you out there are gonna say, well, why would you like that game? All you had to do was drive in a car and all that jazz. Let's just say the environment that they had for it, the fact that you went with 3 other people around you while you were Prince Noctis trying to make your way to become king of the lands, and all of the adventure you went on with these guys with the cool looking car that I got a feeling exists in real life, it was a little bit different than the RPG games I played growing up. Especially seeing the fact that you get a chance to drive a cool car, have all these cool weapons, and even though it had a bit of negative press behind it, I would have to say after the patches that they came up with for the game and a couple of additives, it was still a fun game to me. As a matter of fact, if it wasn't for that incident that happened 2 years back, we would have probably streamed that for you guys as well too. That usually is a summer tradition for us. And I think the last RPG game, technical RPG game that we can add to the list for the spy elements that they had for it would have to be Alpha Protocol, would be one of our favorites because it was like a James Bond game, only with, you know, spy stuff in it. Which I never heard of anybody coming up with an RPG game like that, but I always dreamed of something like that happening. So, a chance for that game to have a Beta Protocol or Omega Protocol in the future would be nice. But I got a feeling the people who made the game is probably out of business now, so the chances of that happening, unless somebody on the indie scene gets a hold of the game rights, I don't think it's gonna happen, but I got my fingers crossed. Anything can happen in the world of games. You never know. And the next question we have up says, Dear DJ Smokey, what was your favorite weapon in an RPG game and why? That's another difficult question. There's been so many different RPG weapons that I've used over the years to take down enemies, but I would have to say 5 weapons. And Carl and the Maestro already rolling their eyes with the wizard hat on. My first weapon I would have to say, and we mentioned Phantasy Star Online, that weapon, the Dark Flow, a weapon that allows you to use wave blast attacks to take out your enemies when you're in danger health. It's a risk and reward, but at the same time, a chance to do an attack that I got a feeling would be featured on Inuyasha to take out your enemies. Definitely was something I love to do and was one of my favorite weapons. Another one of my favorite weapons, any of the Ultima weapons that would be featured in any of the Final Fantasy games, because those were the be-all, end-alls to take people out. And oh, one other game I forgot to mention that was my favorite would have to be Final Fantasy Type 0, mostly because of all the different playing cards and numbers, ranked people you got a chance to control in that game to take it to people on the field. Oh, and another RPG game, and Carl and the Maestro said, yeah, you add one more, would have to be Valkyria Chronicles. Now, Valkyria Chronicles 2 being my favorite, mostly because they added the weapon attack that allows you to use a motor strike with a sword to take out your enemies. Not to mention they did a collaboration with Phantasy Star Online, which was pretty cool too. I think Vivian was one of the bonus characters in that. Yeah, that was another reason why I love that series, is because you never know what character you're gonna get once you beat the game for it. But to get back to the weapons, another one of my favorite weapons would have to be from Champions of Norath, and it would have to be those mauls that they would have. These maces my sister used with pestilence attached to it. Those were a couple of my favorite weapons because anybody who would get in the path of those things would glow yellow like cheese and die immediately with flies surrounding them, which was brutal. And not to mention was one of the starting things for me to get behind poisonous weapons and weapons with, as what some people would call tick damage out there, that allows you to not only hit them with the weapon, but hit them where it hurts afterwards, which was always dangerous. Another one of my favorite weapons, if you count the Division, would have to be the Sweet Dreams pump action shotgun, maybe the rock and roll, because you get a chance to use it with a shield to take it to enemies, take them out in buildings. And the final weapon I would have to say would have to be that mystical staff that they had in the world of Dragon's Dogma. Mostly because of the magic amplification that you can have with it, and because I got a feeling when Dark Arisen comes out, the second one, it's gonna probably lead me to turning creatures into stone. And the most brutal ways known possible, and that's another reason why I love Dragon's Dogma, because of the different magical abilities I could have in it. And another person, since we went way over the top, asked us, Dear DJ Smokey, what class do you like in RPG games and why? Well, when I was younger, I keep saying it like I'm an old man, oh, and back in my day, but seriously, When I was younger, I used to be gung-ho, run in, take everybody out, ask no questions, and just keep looting whatever I could see. So the warrior class had a special place in my heart because I always believed that power was the thing you needed on the field to take everybody out, until I got older and learned the importance, thanks to Guild Wars, another RPG game I would like to thank and was one of my favorite, that taught me that being a healer on the field makes you as valuable as gold. And the reason why I say that is because in most combat situations, especially in world versus world situations that you're in, if you end up in that moment where, oh no, we're surrounded by a whole bunch of people and we have no health items, you come along, douse a little rain on them and heal them for about 30 to 50%, yeah, you're the savior of the battlefield. And that would not only be the reason why, but I like to watch the battle from a far off distance nowadays, because going in all gung-ho and end up getting killed without any plan whatsoever, I don't know why. I think I grew out of that. But now being a mage and getting a chance to use abilities that can take out enemies from afar or heal people from afar definitely made me appreciate the mage just a little bit more. So that would be my favorite class outside of the Necromancer and maybe the Summoner. And that would be in games like, I would have to say Phantasy Star Online 2. That or maybe Phantasy Star New Genesis. Either one of those Phantasy Star games, plus a couple of games out there that allows you to summon animals to fight for you or creatures, another one of my favorite classes. So if you see me out there in the field summoning some form of giant rabbit or something like that to help you in battle, yeah, that's most likely me. Maybe. And the next question that we have up, and according to Carl and the Maestro, the last but not least question that we have up for this summer of RPG asks, Dear DJ Smokey, what made you go back to your YouTube page, and what are your plans for that channel in the future? Well, what made me go back to my YouTube page and finally get things going is the fact that we found technology that we could use to easily get the videos up and have things out for you immediately after MusicVillage went off the air. So even though it's gonna be about an hour after MusicVillage goes off, or maybe a little bit later depending on how many songs we have to get in a list to thank all the artists for, yeah, the reason why we went back to that outside of that is because we noticed a lot of you out there asking, hey, is there any other way we can listen in to your shows? And simply put, yes. Now you can listen to it now, a part of our YouTube page of the Agent 0012, where you can go over there and listen to the shows that come out throughout the weeks, and even a couple of special ones, including the Indie Awards, which it may take us a minute to upload and also may receive a copyright strike due to the background music. And that was one of the reasons why we had to get off there, because we thought we were gonna get 3 strikes and we're out and lose our channel. So we're still trying to find a work around it, but either way you look at it, our goal in the near future for this said channel is to have you indie artists featured on there as well, get permission from YouTube of course, have the songs included for the show so everybody can listen to the show in its entirety from top to bottom and listen to your cool music a part of it as well too. Which does mean in the near future, we will have an all indie broadcast for the show featuring all of you indie artists, which will definitely be our goal and hopefully reach by the time we hit the new year. And with those questions answered, folks, wraps it up for another edition, long-winded edition according to Carl and the Maestro, of the MusicVillage Mailbag. And if you guys and gals out there want to go ahead and have your questions answered on this beautiful microphone that we have in front of us now, you can head on over to our Facebook, Instagram, Live 365, Tumblr, and SoundCloud pages, still all named the same, only known as MusicVillage Radio. Or head on over to our YouTube, Twitter, Discord, or even our Blue Sky page, only known as the Agent 0012. Or Or for those who prefer the email route, you can head on over to our email page, only known as musicvillagebluestown@yahoo.com, and submit your questions over to all the pages we list so your questions can get answered over this live microphone, which we would love to do. And trust me, even though we get into deep detail about it, especially with this summer of RPG that we're in. And with that said, folks, I think it's time for us to head back into that music, and when we return, we'll be back with more Music Village that you can shake a stick at right after this. So don't go anywhere just yet, folks, and stay tuned. Right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Music Village. And a little bouquet of oops-a-daisies we picked this week with all the slew of music that we played. Because Carla the Maestro told us to say, hey, DJ Smokey, hey, the music's running a little long. Hey, I said, at this point, we might as well just go with it. So, with the indie music that we were able to pay for you this week, not only the Goodstock project with their song of Everything I Need to Know, We Meant Well, and even the Headphone jacks with The Emperor and Immortal by Carmeria. Yeah, had a lot of indie music on the show this week. And plenty of more, because now it's time for us to go into another edition of the Music Village CD review. And the CD we have up for this week is none other than Dark Station with their said CD of Down in the Dark. And usually around here, we review CDs in 4 ways. Where do we get the CD or find the artist? What was our favorite songs a part of the said album? How did this album make us feel? And do we recommend this album for you, the indie music fan at home? And Carla the Maestro already knows where we're going with this journey, but always loves to hear it. So do I. Especially the music that was featured for it. And with that explanation out of the way, folks, I think it's time for us to light this dark candle and get to where in the world we were able to find this band and this said CD. Well, I hate to say there's a theme going on around here, but it is. Because we were able to find this said CD and artist on Facebook. Yep, that's where we were able to find them. And the CD itself, we got a chance to listen to at least one song, a part of it, and said, all right, sold. They said it's for free. I don't care. I'll pay for it regardless. And after last week's episode of Music Village, when you guys heard me running up and down the stairs like a hamster in a wheel ball or whatever it would be, yeah, that was me getting the news that the CD made it here, and here it is this week being reviewed. And what was our favorite songs a part of this said album? Well, one of our favorite songs, actually 4 of our favorite songs a part of this album, outside of Ryse, Heroes, also would see none other than Villain, and I would have to say Visions was 4 of our favorite songs a part of this said album. And they also have a B-side album as well that we'll include into the mix called Afterlife, which is a really cool name for an album that features a reimagined version of Visions and, of course, of a couple of other songs on there as well, too, that were all pretty cool, too, as well. And when I close my eyes while listening into this album, how did it make us feel? Well, the Afterlife version of this album makes me feel like I'm waiting at the train station until sunrise for the first train to arrive, and all the people I would run into while waiting for the said train. And there's some very interesting caricatures out there while you're waiting for the first train around here, let me tell you. Now, for the main album itself, while listening into this album, it makes me feel like I'm a part of one of those late-night animated shows of the hero overcoming its own demons and somehow rising up to the occasion to fight against that monster that nearly killed them 5 episodes ago. And Carl the Maestro said that would be the best description to describe it. And seeing the fact that we don't know how to review albums along the lines of Rolling Stone magazine or any of those other famous music reviewers that you could think of out there, we say this. If you guys and gals out there want to go ahead and check out a band with some awesome music that reminds me of the Used with their cool sound and music that'll definitely bring some darkness to your lit rooms, with a cool album cover that I almost forgot to mention that showed a couple of trees in a dark forest with some cool merch that went along with it that I highly recommend you go out there and grab the said CD to get that as well too. And even a guitar pick to help you try to play along with the songs depending on your skill level in guitars. And cop that disc is the best thing we can tell you. Or as Carl the Maestro would tell us to say, go out there and cop that disc. And seriously, guys, awesome songs from top to bottom on this album, and I can't wait to see the music video for Visions. Hopefully they release it in the near future. And with that said, folks, and speaking of songs from Dark Station, we might as well go ahead into one song, and another song will be featured later on in the show for reasons, and we'll explain it later, from Dark Station. But the first one we have up is Heroes. And with that said, folks, we might as well get to that music, and when we return, we'll be back with more Music Village that you can shake and stick at right after this. So don't go anywhere just yet, folks, and stay tuned. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Music Village. Now, during the break, Carl the Maestro, and actually during the Music Village CD review, which tripped me up a bit, Carl the Maestro found the music video for Visions, but it's from their Afterlife album, which once again threw me through a loop, but at the same time, an absolutely cool music video, which I recommend you head on over to their YouTube page to check it out. And I got a feeling after the show, I might do the same thing. But speaking of things that are currently in progress right now, and with Carl the Maestro give me that look, I think it's time for us to go ahead and check out some games from a planet far away from here and from the steaming sheet alike for another edition of the Friday Night Greenlight. And the first game that we have up comes from the developers by the name of Art Game Studios. Nice name for the developer name, by the way, with their said game of Hell and Cell. And this game automatically reminds me of, I would have to say Elder Scrolls for some strange reason, and mostly because of the giant spell blast that for the picture that they have up here that's currently on the screen. Now, here's hoping in the near future for this set game that maybe, just maybe, that you get a chance to get a rare elemental like staff that you can use during your travels. And apparently, according to Carl the Maestro, most of these weapons that you get from this shop comes from dungeons that you loot from. Also, you're an adventurer by day and a seller at night? Carl the Maestro said other way around. All right. And The next game that we have up, besides selling weapons that you get from dungeons after taking out Markling Beast, comes from the developers Horizion Studios with their said game of Burned Horizons. And this game automatically reminds me of, I don't know why, but with the way that the soldiers look, reminds me a lot of Conflict Desert Storm. Now, here's hoping in the near future for this said game that you can operate a team just like you could in that said game, and maybe, just maybe, a chance after each mission to upgrade your ranks and unlock some cool weapons to go along with it. Cause I got a feeling whatever's lurking in that village, you may need some heavy artillery for. And according to Call of the Maestro, it could just be a goat. You do got a point there, but it's better safe than sorry. And according to Call of the Maestro, you're right. But at the same time, I don't think there's anything in that village but a goat. Could be an ambush. Now, with Call of the Maestro thinking about what I just said, the next game that we have up with Call of the Maestro now pondering over in the corner like an episode of Pinky and the Brain, comes from the developers One Man Tim. Nice developer name, by the way, with their said game of Bar After Bar. Now, this game automatically reminds me of the Trials files, or more or less the Trials maps that they used to have back in the day for the Trials Evolution game. That used to be mentioned by Achievement Hunter every single week that they would call the Trials files. Now, here's hoping in the near future for this game, since I know you're going to be inebriated trying to climb up the side of a mountain, that you get a chance to customize your car to work with you under the influence. And Call of the Maestro showing me the screens of absolute, I guess, beer goggle blurred levels of insanity, telling me that, yeah, I don't think any upgrade in the world will help you with that. Okay. Well, at least maybe a chance for you to somehow recover the car after you fall about 5 stories, maybe 6. And Call of the Maestro said, think higher. Okay. Well, I guess the only other thing I can hope for in the near future is a chance for you indie gamers out there to design the tracks. Because, yeah, they're gonna need some very challenging tracks to go along with whatever gin and tonic they're drinking. Besides getting a DWI on the top of a mountain, the next game that we have up comes from the developers A Gaming Plus with their said game of DK. And apparently it stands for Department of Environmental Control and Yield. Never heard of them. And this game automatically reminds me, you know what, since they're using acronyms, might as well be the BAD, because I got a feeling there's going to be some form of aliens that are going to be in here, so the Bureau of Alien Detectors. And Call of the Maestro asked me, but why in a desert? I never asked the question why in the world the Bureau of Alien Detectors go to different places. They just do what they do. Now, here's hoping in the near future that you have some heavy artillery to deal with whatever's lurking out in that said desert or wherever in the world you have to go in this special department of decay. Now, Call of the Maestro believes in that game there's a high possibility of you fighting some form of sand creature. Oh, I hope not. Especially if it's underneath the sand, you might need dynamite for that. But besides strategies on trying to take out desert-like creatures, the next game that we have up comes from the developers M and Dev with their said game of Sea Colony. And this game automatically reminds me of, I guess it reminds me of, can't remember the name of that game where you're on the boat, but it reminds me a lot of also Castaway and Mike, Lou, and Og when they learned how to live out in some special sea colony. You know, the one episode where they had that giant oversized tent out in the middle of the ocean? Yeah, sort of like that, with a little hit of Gilligan's Island in there as well, too. And here's hoping in the near future for this game that maybe, just maybe, and the game was Raft is what I was thinking of. Here's hoping in the near future for this game that not only you get a chance to get some special nets to help you catch things, to help you stay alive in this sea colony, but maybe, just maybe, some form of defense system from sharks, whales, or whatever sort of aquatic life that might try to take you out at a moment's notice. And Carl in the Maestro said, isn't whales friendly? Well, friendly to a degree, but I hope not to test it. So here's hoping in the near future that you do get a chance to get something to defend against it. That or build some form of, I guess, sea bridge underneath to make sure that they can have safe passage without ruining the base. And Carl in the Maestro's giving the thumbs up for that one. The next game that we have up, besides making an aquatic refuge, according to Carl and the Maestro, and no, I'm not going to put one of those glass floors underneath to watch the fish go by because that's dangerous. But the next game we have up comes from the developers Reignite Games with their set game of the Spirit Warriors, or the Warrior Spirits. No, the other way around sounds cooler. But either way you look at it, folks, this game automatically reminds me of a combination of not only Double Dragon, but a little hint of Slay the Spire in there as well, too. And here's hoping in the near future for this set game that you can learn some new attacks along the way, too, including the Sovereign Oblivion attack that I got a feeling will do well over 1,000 damage due to the purple light beam that shot from that girl's hand. The last but not least game that we have up, besides possibly throwing a Hadouken to take out your enemies at a moment's notice, comes from the developers, and Colin and Maestro laughing with that impression over in the corner. Comes from the developers Turquoise Games with their set game, A Police Officer. Now, this game automatically reminds me of an episode of Cops. I'll just say that much. And the only thing I hope for in the near future for this game is, I guess maybe a chance to upgrade the prison itself, and maybe a stronger bulletproof vest, because if that guy took 2 shots and nearly died, you might need a stronger vest for that. So here's hoping you get it. And if you guys and gals out there want to go ahead and check out any other cool games that comes from a planet far away from here, yet close enough to be beamed into your homes in less than 24 hours, then you can go ahead and head on over to the Free Game Planet page of one man only known as freegameplanet.com to check out a whole bunch of cool, weird, strange, awesome, frightening, and scary games that are just out of this world. If you also want to go ahead and check out any other cool games that are still coming through the Steam machine via the cargo ship, cargo plane, or even subterranean train that is currently rumbling beneath your toes, then you can go ahead and head on over to the store.steampower page of one man only known as store.steampower.com and click ever so lightly on that upcoming button while trying to find some form of magical genie to get toward that indie button to wish for some cool indie games to pop up right in front of your face. That will cost you a wish, and at the same time, depending on the genie, might be one of the most dangerous wishes you ask for. Well, as long as it's not Wishmaster, you should be fine. But if it's the genie from Aladdin, you might get a cool game. Who knows? Depending on the time of day, folks. And I guess with that said, I think it's time for us to head back into some more of that indie music. And when we return, we'll be back with yet another new DJ Smokey's True Video Game Stories right after this. So don't wear your horns out in afternoon traffic just yet, folks. And stay tuned. Alright, all you video gamers, welcome to yet another Off the Rails Heist Fire Destruction edition of the DJ Smokey's True Video Game Stories. And with a title like that, we decided to go with the game that I got a feeling several people were waiting for here in MusicVillage Radio, none other than Neverness to Everness. And I guess with that said, I think it's time for us to get ready to sharpen our weapons as we try to take out anomalies and go into fun activities around the town that we lived in as we get ready to paint the picture. Alright, this video game story would technically begin, give or take it, 3 months ago when I was trying to learn my bearings in this town and use the characters available to try to beat the different objectives and missions that they would have in it. And the one thing that I always wanted to beat would have to be the mission by the name of Off the Rails, which for no one who ever played this game before would be a 10-part series that you would have to go through that tried to take out a litany list of different anomalies that were in the area to obtain an ultimate prize of a whole bunch of analysts and a whole bunch of other items that allowed you to trade it in for the in-game money that they would have. And every single team that I would assemble together would only be able to get up to station number 6. And that would be the limit. Station number 6, every single time it would switch over, that would be the part we would get to, and we would not be able to get the full 3 stars across the board for each part. That was until we ran into the team that I would be able to create, known as the team we would call Cut and Move, which would be a team of not only Daffodil, Lacrimosa, Sakiri, and Hanyo. And the team was working just fine. Everything was going as smooth as silk for the first 4 stations that I would have until we realized that I had to buff up the levels of the characters and even buff up their attacks as well too for us to make our way finally to station number 9. And once we got there, we had to fight this giant, oversized teddy bear rabbit creature, which gave us the business, but at the same time would be able to be toppled with just a little under 5 minutes and 3 seconds left to go for us to beat it and dust our hands and say, oh, that was difficult. Now, we had to deal with that problem each time they would have an Off the Rails for this until they announced a brand new character that would be released as of this week that would go by Zenku, which for those who don't know would be one of the Scarlet members, or the Scarlet Letter members' most dangerous femme fatales that they would have with a sword. And after checking out the 1.3 update preview for this character, I said, I gotta have it. I gotta have it. She is dangerous. I gotta have it. So I would save up all the red dice and everything that I would have for an event that they would have in this game called the Scarsborough Fair, where you would get a chance to get the character in about 70 rolls or less, or 90 if your luck is not as good. But for me, I was able to get Zenku in less than just about 54 rolls. And once I got her, I would immediately go off to the races, upgrading her as high as I possibly could, and even getting the key weapon that she would have to take it to the creatures that were lurking about. And once I finally upgraded, I would say to myself, all right, it's time to see if she lives up to the height that 1.3 update preview gave her. And boy, oh boy, did it ever. Because once I went to the Off the Rails and was struggling on the final 4 stations that we mentioned before, she would chainsaw her way through that with ease, not only using the mirror blade attack that I would call the vanishing blade, where she would be able to do a simple sword slash to gather everybody together, slash the air, and even do some form of cool pose that killed the creatures instantly. It didn't matter what weakness they had, she was the ultimate weakness and kryptonite to everything that stood into her path for me to say, oh, I gotta show King and Alex this when I get the chance. And once they logged on and I would be able to show them, I'd say, hey man, you gotta see what this girl can do. You gotta see what she's capable of. She is a monster on the field. And I would show them all of the attacks that I would be able to do while clearing other challenges I had to clear for that week, including the said Golden Links, a thing that I had in my apartment to get 74,000 bonds, then try to do things that way as well too. And would be able to do it in less than 45 seconds flat with this girl. And after showing off her skills and showing how dangerous this girl could possibly be, I would immediately decide to team up with King after saying, does anybody need help with the ping pong heist? Anybody needs help with that heist so that they can, get a little money? Because for me, it wasn't about the money. It was more or less proving the power of this girl and how quickly she could turn things into mincemeat. So I would decide to team up with King while King went off grabbing all the money he possibly could, forgetting a couple of items along the way, for me to pick him up and say, hey man, you forgot this, forgot that, forgot this, forgot that too. And King would say, oh yeah, why don't we go to the basement and fight that giant creature? And me being a little big-headed for my time for this case would say, hey, you know what? Yeah, let's go down there and take him on. We got 2 minutes. I could probably kill it in 30 seconds. Let's go ahead and do it. So when we went down there fighting that thing, and King, of course, had Zenku as well, too, and Daffodil on his team, but I would have the team of Lacrimosa with Zenku, as well as none other than Sakuri, and I do believe the last person on the squad would have to be Fadia or Hathor in that mix as well, too. And while I had all those characters teamed up, I would have to advise King while fighting this creature, you gotta make sure you have that slowdown attack so you can stop its movements, so you can prevent it from running around while you're trying to hit it. Because for those who don't know, at the bottom of the vault, that creature, for the $200,000 that it would offer if you're able to beat it, quick on its feet, hard to hit, and hard to get move combinations off on, especially in multiplayer. But for me, it wasn't that difficult, because despite it moving around, I would be able to hit it with Zanku's ultimate attack, which I would call a Bankai, which would be this rave whipple attack that would knock it right off its feet and would be able to kill it, but unfortunately would not have enough time to collect the loot. Now, on the second attempt, when we went down there, we were able to beat the Ever-Living Daylight's flag tag out of it. King was able to get all the money while I just was sitting there whistling a tune saying, oh, well, you got a couple more seconds left before we got to get out of here. And once we got out of there, it was over. We won, King got his money, and I would just sit there waiting in the lobby, just checking my characters and trying to level everything up. And then, while I was asking King a question as one of his characters would go flying into the sky at least 100 stories up, or a little bit higher according to Colin Maestro because he saw clouds, I would say, hey, King, you got anything else you need to do? And before I could even finish that sentence, the lights would turn out and that would be it. Apparently, Life thought I was doing so well with that character, it shut everything off for at least another 2 hours and 45 minutes. Or at least 3 hours, according to Colin Maestro, with how the lights started to flicker at one point. Either way, she was too powerful for even the town to handle. And I guess with that said, folks, wraps it up for a very special off-the-rails heist Fire Destruction Blackout Edition of the DJ Smokey's True Video Game Stories. And with that, we'll be back with more right after this. So stay tuned. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to MusicVillage. And yeah, about that video game story, I said during the entire time while fighting with that character, they're gonna patch her. Oh my goodness, they're gonna patch her. And the only reason I could say that is because for those who remembered in Naruto, I think Naruto to Boruto, that one game, they had the guy who looked like Piccolo, I don't remember his name, King probably remembers it. They patched the daylights out of him, and that was during a weekend server thing. And I'm really hoping they don't patch Zenku in the near future, because she was really dominant. And Carla the Maestro asked me, what about the other characters that you featured on the team that you listed? What did they do? I guess bask in her glory, because I really didn't use them. I really didn't use anybody else outside of Lacrimosa, who would switch occasionally so that you can get burn damage from her attacks, which really did come in handy, let me tell you. And with Carla the Maestro laughing over in the corner, I think it's time for us to go into one of my favorite parts of the show. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, none other than the Indie for the weekend, which is me giving you guys local concert information from local artists performing locally live near you. And we kick things off with Friday, August 21st. And the first band that we have up is Dave Fields, who's going to be performing at the Studio C in North Shore School of Music in Hanslet, New Jersey at 7:30 p.m. The Flippin' Mickeys is going to be performing at the Ugly Mug in Cape May, New Jersey at 8 p.m. You can also see Kendall Sasso, who's going to be performing at the Botero Bar in Bayonne, New Jersey at 8 p.m. Paul Maritano is going to be performing at the Oceans Resort Casino in Atlantic City, New Jersey at 9 p.m. And to finally wrap things up and completely out of order according to Carla the Maestro, and rightfully so, you can see The Reckoning, who's going to be performing at the Mountain View Golf Course in Ewing, New Jersey at 8 p.m. Now, my question for that last band, are they going to be performing near the 9th hole or somewhere near the end of the golf court? According to Carla the Maestro, they're performing in the said club itself for the golf course, not in the golf course. I knew that. Well, besides that, I guess miscalculation according to Carla the Maestro, we now head on over to Saturday, August 22nd, where you can see these following bands performing in a local area near you live. Stu Hooten is going to be performing at the Waypoint 622 restaurant in Real, New Jersey at 1 p.m. Paul Maritano is going to be performing at the Pig and Parrot Sandbar in Rail, New Jersey at 8 p.m. Carlotta Schmidt is going to be performing at the JBJ Soul Kitchen in Red Bank, New Jersey at 5 p.m. Pam McCoy is going to be performing at the Navi Singh Country Club in Red Bank, New Jersey at 6 p.m. Wooden Strings is going to be performing at the Luigi's Rancho in Belvedere, New Jersey at 6 p.m. Mike Garanja with the Peter Skens Duo is going to be performing at the Caladandra's Italian Village in Copwell, New Jersey at 7 p.m. TK and the Howlers is going to be performing at the Di Pablo's Restaurant in Pennsgrove, New Jersey at 7 p.m. Stefan Lipinski is going to be performing at the Trainwreck Distillery in Hainsport, New Jersey at 7 p.m. Nikki Breyer is going to be performing at the Seven Tribesmen Brewery in Wayne, New Jersey at 8 p.m. And to finally wrap things up for Saturday night, you can see Dave Fields, who's going to be performing at the Orange Lantern in Paramus, New Jersey at 9 p.m. And on Sunday, August 23rd, you can see these following bands performing in a local area near you live. Kimberly Korn and the Chaos is all going to be performing at the Games Time Sports Bar in Westville, New Jersey at 1 p.m. Pam McCoy is going to be performing at the Sandbox at C Street Ferry in Highlands, New Jersey at 2 p.m. Steve McDaniel is going to be performing at the Log Cabin Bar and Grill in Columbia, New Jersey. At 2 p.m., Mike Garancho with Don Aurelio is going to be performing at the Tony's Restaurant Pub in Hardys Township, New Jersey. At 3 p.m., Paul Maritano is going to be performing at the Salty's Kitchen Bar and Piano Bar in Seaside Heights, New Jersey. At 3:30 p.m., Nikki Breyer is going to be performing at the Argos Farm in Lacey Township, New Jersey. At 4 p.m., the Random Test Reggae Band is going to be performing at the Donovan's Reef in Seabright, New Jersey. At 4 p.m., Flying Blind with Mark Cook and Brian Hall is going to be performing at Oceanport, New Jersey. At 4 p.m., Vic Dello Pello is going to be performing at the Lobster Pit in Long Branch, New Jersey. At 5 p.m., Drummond's Place is going to be performing at the Mark Bello in Long Branch, New Jersey. At 6 p.m., and to finally wrap things up for Sunday night, you can see Sherry Lynn, who's going to be performing at the Tiki Bar in Atlantic City, New Jersey at 7 p.m. And on Monday, August 24th, almost forgot the date, you can see these following bands performing in a local area live near you. Martin Ryse is going to be performing at the Crisco Brewers in Nantucket, Massachusetts. At 4 p.m., Red Watterson and A Good Excuse with Shelly, who's all going to be performing at the Luigi's Patio Restaurante in College Station, New Jersey. Or Texas, according to Colin Maestro, pointing at the map of Texas. At 5 p.m., Danny Grayshock is going to be performing at the Iron Key Brewing in Columbus, North Carolina. At 6 p.m., Sold Enough is going to be performing at the Sambo's Tavern in Lipstick, Delaware. At 6 p.m., Jeff Gunther with the Coots. Can't have a weekend without them performing. You can see them performing at the Camp Hope in West Milford, New Jersey. At 6:30 p.m., no, seriously, you can't have a weekend without them. You usually see them every weekend. Anyway, next band we have up is the Misty Blues, who's going to be performing at the Jimmy's Jazz and Blues Club in Portsmouth, North Hampshire. Or New Hampshire. Thank you for the correction, Carl and the Maestro. At 7 p.m., you can also see Stephen Gloob, who's going to be performing at the Red Rooster in Harlem in New York, New York. At 7 p.m., next up after that, you have Michael Charles, who's going to be performing at the Tall Ship Windy in Chicago, Illinois. 7 p.m., Justin Allen Payne is going to be performing at the Irving Theater in Indianapolis, Indiana. At 7 p.m., and to finally wrap things up for Monday night and for all the bands we're going to mention for this week, you can see the Garage Boys, who's going to be performing at the Mandalay Bay Casino in Las Vegas, Nevada at 10 p.m. You guys and gals out there want to go ahead and check out the complete list of bands that we could list during this very broadcast. And trust me, folks, there were a lot of them. You can head on over to ReverbNation.com to check out the complete list of bands that we could list during this very broadcast. And while you're over there, check out a couple of their cool tunes. Trust me, they're worth the listen. And like we say at the end of all of these skits, go out there, support your local artists, and see these guys perform live. And trust me, they'll love you for it. I guess with that said, I think it's time for us to head back into that music and continue to listen into these Diamonds in the Rough. Only here, right here on Music Village. So don't get lost in that afternoon or evening traffic just yet, folks, and stay tuned. And we're back with the show that completely forgot to mention the details of why in the world we separated two songs from each other when we play them back to back, only known as MusicVillage. Now, the reason why in the world we separated those two Dark Station songs is one, the secondary song we played after the video game stories would be the song that would help us actually beat certain parts of Neverness to Everness. So we owe that band a lot of things for musical inspiration that helped us beat a certain boss that we've been trying to get past for the longest amount of time, which always proves, and Carla the Maestro will admit it, that music really does help soothe the savage beast, or at least slay him in this case. And I got a feeling I might have to go back to them for some more musical inspiration when Dark Arisen 2 comes out. Or, you know, the DLC for Dragon's Dogma, which should be coming out in, what, the next 2 months? According to Carla the Maestro, a month and change. Ooh, time flies, don't it? And speaking of time, I'm looking at my watch right now. Oh, it's just about that time. It's the witching hour, which means it's time for us to be brought up to speed with news stories from this week from, you guessed it, all around the world. And in our first news story, and in news from not only the CVV show, but from the Acolyte Protection Agency. Because this week on Insight, we would see none other than Farouk or Ron Simmons and Bradshaw, aka JBL, on the Chris Van Vliet show for Insight as the APA. Not only talking about their memories of Eddie Guerrero, the fact of Ron Simmons winning the world championship in the outfit that he would wear, but also talking about, and possibly one of my favorite parts that I'm glad that Chris asked this question during the show, the hardest clothesline from hell JBL ever delivered. And I'm pretty sure if any of you out there went on YouTube and went on a YouTube page by the name of BDWJ Forever, that would be featured during it of one of the hardest hitting moves they've seen, a part of the Oh My God series, where he would hit Shane McMahon at SummerSlam so hard, I thought he killed him. And same thing with Ron, and the story behind it, absolutely hilarious, to the point where I would rewind it at least once a day to hear JBL talking about it, and then hearing Ron saying, well, at that point, I thought we were fired. I'm telling you, absolutely hilarious, especially with this being one of my favorite tag teams of all time, being the Smash Mouth team that they are. And the fact that they're not both inducted in the Hall of Fame as a team, hopefully that happens by this year. I mean, you already got Demolition. They should be next. That or Too Cool. All depends. But besides tag teams that should be inducted in the Hall of Fame, if you guys and gals out there want to go ahead and check out this awesome interview with Ron Simmons and JBL, then you can go ahead and head on over to the YouTube page of one man only known as Chris Van Vliet to check it out for yourselves. And yes, Carl in the Maestro, he does say, damn! And in other news, and more or less news from the kill count, for you fans out there who always wanted to see the kill count for the movie The Long Walk, well, this week, James A. Janice would, I guess, walk his way over to the kill counting room to count the kills from that said film. And I never truly had a chance to watch this film either. You know, I tried to watch the film prior to the kill count so it wouldn't spoil it for me, but in this case, I may check it out And according to Call of the Maestro, it might not be a movie, but I think it might be a mini-series. Okay, but either way you look at it, we'll be checking it out in the near future. And if you guys out there want to go ahead and check out this awesome kill count for this week that I got a feeling you might walk to, then you can go ahead and head on over to the YouTube page of one man only known as Deadbeat to check it out for yourselves. And in other news, and more or less news from the world of music, because BRENNA this week would deliver a brand new music video for her song Of the Other Side. And after checking out the YouTube page and seeing the cool music video, I'm really hoping she does have a music video lurking out there for the song Psycho. And according to Call of the Maestro, that might come out by Halloween. Oh, rightfully so. Well, here's hoping it does. And I guess a music video for her cover of Crazy Train as well, too. That or I Was Made for Loving You. That would be a pretty cool music video to see as well, too. And I don't know why I imagine her in some form of ballroom while performing it. According to Call of the Maestro, it would be appropriate. Yeah, it would be. But if you guys and gals out there want to go ahead and check out this brand new music video from BRENNA, then you can go ahead and head on over to the YouTube page of one girl only known as BRENNA to check it out for yourselves. And I guess with all those regular news stories out of the way for this week, you guys and gals out there know what time it is. No, Call of the Maestro, it's not time to check to see if the power is about to go out again from whatever storm that's about to hit us, which that's actually a pretty good idea. Check just in case. But while you do that, it's time for us to go into yet another edition of... And step back, folks. You're gonna need the room for this because it might light the town up again. Video game news. You know, I don't think it powered up the town good enough, but at least gave it about a 75% boost. You know what I mean? In our first video game news story, and an exciting news for you fans out there who always wanted to see Claire, the original actor from the said Code Veronica game of the Resident Evil variety, actually talking about her experience in the game while the game's going. Well, I have some good news for you, because none other than Allison Court, the original Claire Redfield actor from the video game of Resident Evil Code Veronica, would be able to join the boys of Residents of Evil for a little interview while playing the game of Resident Evil Code Veronica. Now, I, for one, who was a fan and a little terrified of that game, is glad to see the voice actor still alive and well. That and a chance to see her share her thoughts about the game as well, too. Pretty cool. Now, I'm wondering what she thought about the spiders in this game and if she's gonna return as the voice actor for Claire for the upcoming Resident Evil game that will release, I got a feeling, by next year. And that's just a ballpark estimate because we don't know when it's gonna release, but I got a feeling it might be by next year. And if you guys and gals out there want to go ahead and check out this cool interview with some gameplay from the original Resident Evil Code Veronica, then you can go ahead and head on over to the YouTube page of one man only known as Residents of Evil to check it out for yourselves. And in other video game news, and in news from the world of Indiecade, because of you guys and gals out there who didn't hear any of the games we mentioned, a part of the Indiecade Triple S Deluxe for the Climate Jam for this year, well, This year, you get a chance to check out nearly all of the Climate Jam games in a reel-to-reel showcase for this week, because they just recently uploaded to their YouTube page that you can check out for yourselves. And I, for one, who always wanted to check out a couple of the games from the Climate Jam, but never only got a chance to see it via, I guess, a picture. And yeah, I know, never only Carl the Maestro, you keep laughing about that, but we only get a chance to check out the pictures. We never get a chance to actually check out any trailers or what have you. So it's nice to see that they were able to provide that for this year, a part of the Climate Jam. Now, here's hoping they do the same thing for the Horizion showcase, but I got a feeling it's gonna be longer than 50 minutes of what they posted here. And according to Carl and the Maestro, 41 minutes, 9 seconds. Okay then, I'm missing 9 minutes. And if you guys and gals out there want to go ahead and check out all of the cool games that were featured during the IndieCade Climate Jam for this year, then you can go ahead and head on over to the said YouTube page of one man only known as, you guessed it folks, IndieCade, to check it out for yourselves. And in other video game news, and in news from anticipated game news, because for you fans out there who haven't heard anything from the game of Anata for well over somewhere near a year, well, I have some good news for you, because they finally announced that they will be coming to Gamescom this year, a part of the opening night, and will have some footage featured for the game and gameplay as well too. Now, this was one of the games I was looking forward to outside of Sea of Remnants, and of course for the game of Resident Evil like we mentioned before, and at the time also mixed there in the mix for Neverness to Everness. So to finally check out gameplay footage for this game is gonna be pretty awesome. And I can't wait to see what they got up the tubes or down the tubes for this game, or what cool footage they're gonna add to it to really sell people, or even a release date for when the game comes out, which I hope by the end of this year, but at the same time, I got a feeling it might be by next year, and that's a ballpark estimate. We don't have any insiders around here who knows release dates or anything. We're just making an educated guess. But if you guys and gals out there want to go ahead and check out what sort of things they got up their sleeves for this game that will be hopefully coming out before the end of this year, then you can go ahead and head on over to their said Twitter page, only known as Anata, to check it out for yourselves. And as a bit of a heads up, the live streaming time for this game for Gamescom's opening night live will take place as of 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 6 p.m. on the other side of the earth, or Pacific Standard Time of 11 a.m. So yeah, those are some very interesting times, and hopefully you can catch it. And in other news of the video game variety, and in more or less Grand Theft Auto Online news, because for you fans out there who always wanted a hot ring Sabre, this week is the week for you. Because along with the said brand wars that are still currently going on strong, you also get a chance to go home with a free the classy hot ring Sabre. But alongside with that, for the weekly challenges for this week, for any of you out there who is able to win 3 races, not only will get the Princess Racing tracksuit, but also $250,000 GTA dollars to go alongside with it. And to help you test out that Hot Ring Sabre, the Hot Ring Circuit Series, free mode challenges, and free mode events are quadruple the amount of GTA dollars and RP for this week, as well as triple the amount of money for the Odd Jobs, the said Community Series, and the following is discounted at 40%. The Bail Office properties, upgrades and modifications, the Bravado Hot Ring Hellfire, the Scramjet, the Hot Ring Evron, and for 30%, the Canis Terminus, the RT3000 of the Dinka variety, the Vito Modern, the Emperor ETR1, the MTL Wastelander, the Fixer Comet S2, fast car I may add, one of my favorites of the game too, even the Obermatt Sentinel Classic, as well as, according to Call of the Maestro, the Vapid Desert Raid, the Trophy Truck, the Reaver, and the Adura, all 30% off for this week. And Call of the Maestro said not only that, but wait, there's more. How can there be more? Now, before I set you up for something that sounds like a late night infomercial ad, for the lucky wheel for this week, you get a chance to go home with the Grandeur 3000. Basically the giant oversized Escalade. That's the bulletproof variety that you can get off the wheel if you're able to win it via a spin. But for the LS Meat Car Ride prize for this week, if you're able to place in the top 3 for 2 days in a row, you can go home with the Innis Paragon R for this week. Not bad. And if you guys and gals out there want to go ahead and check out any other cool deals or other things that are still coming down the tubes via the world of Rockstar, then you can go ahead and head on over to the socialclub.rockstargames page, only known as socialclub.rockstargames.com, or under the said GTA series video page under their post section or under the newswire section that we almost forgot to mention for Rockstar, to check all that out for yourselves. And I guess with that said, for this week, you have all officially been brought up. Wait a minute, you gotta get down with the groove. 1 sec. All right, stepping in time. Wizard hat almost fell off, but I kept it on this entire show and forgot to take it off. But I'm still moving and grooving with it. Hey, does this thing lighten up? And apparently, according to Call of the Maestro, when somebody's happy, it is. Well, I can't get any happier than this. You know, I'm gonna keep this hat. But besides keeping this hat, I think you've all officially been brought up to speed. And I guess with that said, I think it's time for us to head back to that music one more time. And when we return, we'll be back with the final segment for Music Village for this week, right after this. So don't get lost in that afternoon or evening traffic just yet, folks, and stay tuned. Well, ladies and gentlemen, seeing the fact that the evening traffic is really starting to pick up, and it's just about that time for us to get out of here before it gets any worse, that and plus we ran out of music for this week, we might as well bring Music Village for this week to an emphatic close. But don't worry, if you miss any of that musical goodness or any of the shenanigans we were able to deliver during it, we got you covered, because you can catch this show again one more time, all the time, on our SoundCloud, Facebook, Instagram, Tumblr, and Live 365 pages, still all named the same, only known as Music Village Radio under the hashtag Music Village 624. And as a matter of fact, I do believe that's the time we got home through the traffic. Yeah, had to get here from the other side of town. But thank goodness we know the back roads, so we were lucky. And if you guys and gals out there want to figure out all the crazy and zany things we still got prepared for the summer of RPG, aka this month of adventure, like the adventure we went through the back roads to get here back to Music Village headquarters, then you can go ahead and check it out on our YouTube, Discord, Twitter, and Blue Sky page, still all named the same, only known as CAA Agent. double 012. Before we head out for the night, we would like to thank, as always, you the fans out there for listening in to a very special Friday afternoon / night adventure edition of Music Village. And if you guys and gals out there like what you heard, go out there and spread the word. You know what? Like Zero performing his finisher in the game of Neverness Everness. Yeah, you know the PR department knows where I'm going with this one. They're giving a thumbs up while dressed up as characters from Neverness to Everness and asked me, weren't you supposed to mention this game later this year? Yeah, I was, until that awesome character came out and threw the whole schedule out the window. Funny how that works, isn't it? And speaking of people who would make people throw the schedule right out the window with their awesome tunes, we would like to thank you, the independent artists out there, for that musical goodness like you always do. And keep up the great work, guys, and here's hoping your awesome music gets featured during a cool game in the near future. And why? Because we believe you guys. That's why. That and, well, the game's gonna need an awesome soundtrack for the cool fight scenes or action sequences, and that's where you'll come in, hopefully. And speaking of people's music that was used during action sequences that was featured during this show, we would like to thank the following artists for being a part of it. The Cowboys with their said song of Donzell's Crystal Ball and FM Radio Whispers, ClareCiel with their said song of Sunny Days, the Goodstock Project with their said songs of Everything I Need to Know and We Mean Well, Headphone Jacks with their said song of The Emperor, Carmeria with their said song of Immortal, Dark Station with their said songs of Hero and Ryse, even Mesh with their said song of Boots on the Pavement and Atrophy, BRENNA with their said songs of SOS and Silent Symphony. Then you have Rust Assembly with their said song of March from Dawn to Dusk. Even ClareCiel with another song of Easy to Lie. And finally, last but not least, to wrap things up for the night, none other than LUDIOSIS with their said song of Fire. And before we could possibly forget, we would also like to thank Tekno AXE with his said song of Until Your Engine Stops Motor Horizons that was featured during a very special Pink Paws Open Rail Blackout Edition of the DJ Smokey's True Video Game Stories. And also, we would like to thank none other than Carl and the Maestro with their said song of the Blue Collar Jam Session that is currently wrapping things up for this week's edition of Music Village. And like always, guys and gals out there, keep them coming, because you never know what shows might be around the corner that needs it. So yeah, keep those tunes coming. And finally, last but certainly not least, we would like to thank you, the independent gamers out there, for coming out with all those sweet, sweet video game hits and clips we had a chance to mention during this week's show. And like always, keep them coming, because you never know what show might be lurking around the corner next. Hint, 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 hint. And I guess with everybody thanks, you guys and gals out there, we go out. I'm DJ Smokey on behalf of Carl and the Maestro saying, divided by zero. But most importantly, when there's smoke, there's fire. And we'll see you guys next week for the final preschool weekending edition of Music Village. But until then, LUDIOSIS with their said song of Fire. And until next week, good night, everybody.